Hello, my name is Visklugers and welcome to Armored Warfare, and it's time again for the next update preview, the update 0.16. And it would seem that this time the update does have a lot of stuff in it. Nothing like super huge major updates, but quite a lot of smaller things that are very welcome indeed. Now, so let's go first through all the new things and then discuss in more detail what they hold in them. So, we got major improvements to the core gameplay, game performance improvements, new high-tier vehicles, loot system, updated sound effects, 3 new PvE missions, and new commendation system. So that does sound quite a lot of stuff in a single patch, and since we are already getting a preview and some of these new things have actually got their own little articles already, it does seem like that the patch wouldn't be that far. Maybe we can get it even in a couple of weeks, which would be fantastic. So at first we got the major improvements to the core gameplay. So what does that hold? It should fix the shot delay issue, which I haven't personally actually seen, but I can imagine if you have even a half a second of a delay when you pull the trigger and when the client actually understands that you actually wanted to make a shot, it's a major problem in a PvP community, but personally haven't seen it too much. But it's still a fantastic thing that they're finally starting to find solution to it. And then the biggest thing that I have personally seen is the incorrect turret facing issue correction. So I believe in multiple of my videos I have been nagging about that your opponent's turret may be facing very different direction that it actually is facing. I've seen it in PvP and in PvE, but more often in PvE, and it's really frustrating no matter which game mode you're playing. If you are playing in a fragile vehicle, or hell, even a heavily armored main battle tank, if they can penetrate you. But mostly when you're relying on ambush tactics and surprising the enemy, at those times it's very crucial that you know where the enemy is focusing its attention, and if it has seen you, if it's pointing its gun at you. It's quite an important thing, so that should be fixed or at least improved. Then we got small objects slow down vehicle issue correction. And I personally feel like it's really a goddamn annoying when you're driving a ridiculously big main battle tank and then you go over a small wooden fence or just small rubble, and really makes you almost like to halt. It's, I think, problem with some specific kind of terrain features. I don't know exactly how they're planning to fix it, but it's a good thing that they're doing something to do with it. For instance, if you're driving a small AFV like the Fox, for instance, I believe if you drive over fences, and especially if they're like stone fences or some brick walls or something, yeah, you should be slowed down quite drastically, but it just feels odd now that it's like with every single vehicle, if you go through that fence or whatever, you are slowed down drastically, so that should be improved. And then we got some shot normalization changes, which pretty much means that really odd ricochets from the guns and the wheels and the treads shouldn't happen quite as often and so forth. It's like a general fix that should improve the overall gameplay just a little bit, and nothing ground shaking and major here. And then we got the game performance improvements, and I'm just gonna read this out loud. We've made some optimization to reduce the overall draw calls requested on each map. As a result, players should notice a reduction in the amount of frame stuttering or hitching occurring, particularly on lower end systems. So this is a really good improvement in my opinion, because there are a couple of maps that starts to hiccup a lot more than other maps. Some maps are fine, the performance seems rock solid, but in some maps there are areas and just places which just really make the frame rate suffer for some reason. And this is of course the biggest problem on the lower end systems, so it should make the life on a player who has these kinda lower end computers just a little bit better. And then we got some new high tier vehicles. There will be a T-15 HIFV Tier 10 armored fighting vehicle, which is technically like an armored fighting vehicle variant of the T-14 Armada, and it does look quite neat as a model. And for those people who have grinded all the way to tier 10, it's a good thing to have them more toys to play with. But I guess the average Joes, as I identify myself, it's gonna be a long way before I'm gonna have some action with these kind of bad boys. And then we have the PTL-02 Tier 8 Premium Tank Destroyer, which is unique in the sense that I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it's the first Tier 8 premium vehicle that's been introduced into the game. The majority of premium vehicles are Tier 6 or lower. There's a couple of Tier 7s, but this is the first Tier 8. It's a tank destroyer, probably works very close to existing tank destroyers. Got some mobility, got wheels, got big gun. Yeah, if you really like tank destroyers, this vehicle probably for you. Personally can't say too much of the vehicle. There's separate post about it, but not really any in-game statistics, so really hard to tell anything about it as of now. And then we start to get to the bigger changes, the more noticeable stuff. For instance, the loot system, which also has a really big post about it. So let me just read the small description very fast, and then we can take smaller snippets of the actual thing. Beginning with the update 0.16, a new loot system will reward players with supply crates full of awesome items to help out with progression in all kinds of ways. Every time players participate in a match, be it PvP or PvE, they will have a chance to be rewarded with supply crate. Both the chance to earn the supply crate and its quality level are strongly influenced by the player's overall performance in the match, with higher reputation scores yielding better rewards, whether or not the player was on the winning team. Right at the bat, I can say that this system sounds really cool. I mean, especially in PvE, when it's been more co-op focused, and I understand it, and I think it's a really good and noble idea. Try to have a team that is, going for a common goal and just not being so selfish, not trying to steal all the kills and get the best score. I know I personally said that, better players should have better scores. But if they wanna preserve the kind of attitude that, you know what, if you guys win this PvE match, you are all gonna get pretty good results, that's okay. But now with the loot system, if there is a player who is noticeably better than anyone else in the team, he'll get a small additional reward. Which is great, because it doesn't take away from the other players, it just gives it just gives a small bonus, like, hey, you know what, you did great, you were the star of this match, here, take this. And the fact that there are different kind of tiers of supply crates means that it's not zoned out from the newer players and those that are not so good at the game, or at least not so good yet at the game. So it really grants you, I really feel like it grants more passion to do well, because sometimes I personally felt like, well, we're gonna anyways win, so what's the use? I might just fart my way through the game, because it's not gonna make a huge difference. Now it actually does matter. So let's take a little bit closer look what you will actually get in the boxes. So the supply crates can drop just regular credits, global reputation, which is always welcome, consumable items, boosts, like for instance boosts to reputation earn or credit earn, whatever, and insignias, which is a totally new thing for the game entirely. And obviously, the better crate you get, the likelihood of better loot will also be higher. So if, for instance, you get a higher amount of credits or higher amount of reputation, and there are different kinds of levels for these insignias. I don't know, it doesn't say, at least yet in here. I believe they will be updating this system, but previously they did mention that you could get like certain like camos or decals or something from these supply crates. But at least for now, they are not here, so you can't really get like items or like permanent things. You can't yet decorate your vehicles, but I bet those are coming in the future, and I hope it would be here as soon as possible. But let's see what the insignias are right now. So basically you have the boosters already. You can activate them in your inventory to have, let's say, 25% increase on your reputation gain. Now these work in a very similar kind of way, except that these are consumable items technically. In the same way as you equip fire extinguishers, repair kits, first aid kits, these kind of stuff, you equip in a separate slot insignias. You have separate kinds of insignias: Commander XP, Crew XP, Credits Gain, Global Reputation Gain, and a Reputation Gain insignias, which I believe you can all equip if you want, but you don't have to. And you have 5 different tiers of each of these insignias, and they are one-time use only. So let's say you open a supply crate and get 10 gold status credit gain insignias and 10 silver grade insignias. I don't know, I just pulled those names out of my head, but let's say they are those. You have 10 times to use that golden status insignia, then you run out of them and you have to switch to the silver one, and you will be getting each time these kind of credit boosts. Once you run out, you don't have the boosts anymore. They plan on making the system a little bit more easy to use, so that you could just press that, use this insignia, and when it runs out, it just automatically equips the second tier without you having to manually do that. I feel like they could add here some kind of system that is just like, with this vehicle, use every insignia that is like, for instance, reputation based, and so it would start to use gradually from the best to worst every single insignia you have, and once you run out and finally get new ones, it would automatically start to use the newly gained insignias from your inventory, since you had the option to automatically equip every single red dot based insignia before. That would be great. Probably they have thought about it, but I just felt like saying it out loud. A small thing to still add here is that the boosters will be changed in a bit, so that they are, I believe, always in a 12-hour period. So for instance, like premium time boosters will be only 12 hours, and even those that are in your inventory right now will be transformed into 12-hour boosters. So if you do have, for instance, a booster that grants you a day of premium time, that will be changed to a 12-hour booster, but have no fear, it will be still having the same amount of time remaining. So if you have a 1-day booster, you will be getting in exchange 2 12-hour boosters, so you won't lose any premium time or anything like that, but instead you will have just these 12-hour boosters. So I guess it makes it kinda a bit easier, so you don't have like 5 different items that grants you premium time. Yeah, we'll see how it ends up being. Also, there will be a new inventory screen, which just look quite a lot easier to manage than what we currently have, which is very bare bones. But yeah, we're gonna have a new inventory screen where you can just see all the boxes you have and all the boosters, insignias, whatever you have already got. And I bet there's some room for actual items, like vanity items and so forth, then please don't make them one-time use items. I want to have a cool decal or a cool camo, and I want it to be permanent. Maybe say like you have one camo that you can slap onto a vehicle and it's permanently on that vehicle. Of course, I would like to be on every single vehicle, but if you're gonna limit this kind of stuff, which there probably are, have it at least be a permanent on the vehicle you slapped it on. And of course, being changeable. If I have, like, let's say black and red striped camo and I put it on my Type 59, and later I want the Type 59 to have a green and yellow striped camo, do have the option to go back to the black and red, because that would just suck if it's like, well, you changed your mind, you don't have it anymore. No, don't do that, please. And finally, going on to the next thing, we have the updated sound effects, and this is a thing that I'm always excited to hear about. Updating sound is like making the game a huge service, assuming the sounds are really good, I mean. But let's see what kind of sounds they are planning to improve or update. So we have all new sounds for each cannon caliber, so effectively every gun should have a new kind of sound. New engine sound set, diesel and turbine engines, so I believe every single engine should sound differently. Gear changes and gearbox whine, and this is like the small details that just make you wanna listen to the game, and it's just yes. Unique impact sounds for high explosive, armor piercing and heat shells, and just thank God, happy to hear this. What made World of Tanks really good was the fact that you could hear which kind of shells they are firing at you, and you know how to adjust your tactics. Okay, this guy's firing high explosive at me. If you're in a main battle tank, not too big of a problem. If you're in an AFV, might be a big problem. It just makes more tactical approaches. It's great. It's really good. Unique terrain impact sounds. This is also really good when you kind of know if you're going too roughly into a slope or whatever. It gives you direct feedback that, you know what, maybe next time don't do that, or maybe it's just like, yeah, go for it, this was okay. This is all good stuff. Turret rotation. Didn't actually even remember that the game did not have a turret rotation sound effect, but now we're gonna get one. Fantastic news. Ricochets. And I actually don't have that much of a problem with the current ricochets. We'll have to see what the new ones are, but I guess there's always room for improvement. And then we got the finally shells whistling by, and that is quite hard to get right in my experience. For instance, in World of Tanks and War Thunder, they've kind of changed the sounds quite much as the time has gone by, and some better, some worse. We'll have to see what the whistling sounds will be in the 0.16 patch. Quite excited for that as well, because this will really brings the immersion when you're under a constant AFV full auto fire. I want that to just sound like menacing. And then we have 3 new PvE missions, and I've noticed that in every single patch, or like major patch, they've started to really kick in these new missions, and they've been better and better and better every single time. Well, actually I gave a little bit of a hard time for the 2 new maps, but I love the idea behind them, even though I gave them quite a big bashing. But we'll have to see what these maps bring in. Maybe they are a bit more improved versions, because they seem to be using the same map layout. But who knows, the missions may be very different. And the final thing is the new commendation system. which is totally optional and totally kinda aesthetic. It's just like nice feature to be in, but it doesn't change anything like in game. You don't get any more reputation, you don't get any more credits. It's just there to give you more information. So what is it? Well, it is very similar to what we have in the World of Warships. I believe World of Tanks has it as well, where you have this kind of, every time you kill an enemy, assist on a kill, damage an enemy, make spotting damage, anything like that, it gives you this kind of small icon that, yeah, you did that, great job. And I think in most cases it's quite useless. But at least you can kind of track down on your performance that, okay, maybe you did 0 kills and you're thinking like, oh, did I do well in this game? And then you check like, oh, I have like 29 damaging shots, maybe I did quite well in a main battle tank or whatever. But if you're playing as a scout, if you're playing AFV and your sole purpose is to scout the enemies, that is the thing that I feel like benefits the most, because it tells you that you have this many enemy vehicles spotted, and every single time one of the vehicles you've been spotting gets hit, you get notified that good job, scouting damage, good job, some more scouting damage, and so forth. You know you're doing something and you're not just sitting in the bush, even though all of your friends can spot them from themselves as well. So that is something I'm probably gonna be using, especially on the AFVs. Not too sure if it's good for main battle tanks and even light tanks, but we'll see how it actually works in gameplay. But yeah, I feel like it's a neat thing. Every single thing that just gives more information and immersion and just more stuff to the player is just fantastic. I really love that. I feel like this is a really good patch. I feel like this has a lot going for it. The loot system is probably the biggest one. The sound effect is just something that I'm really like gasping to hear. How are they? And the new PvE missions are great and just very good looking patch. Can't really wait to get my hands on it. So I guess that is all for today. I hope you liked this one, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.